Hey, what's up everyone? Hope you're doing good wherever you're watching from because I want to talk through the latest update for Final Fantasy VII Remake. So first off, this update is very much about accessibility and flexibility. Square Enix clearly wanted to make sure that more people can enjoy the game from start to finish without feeling blocked, overwhelmed, or slowed down. That doesn't mean they've stripped away the challenge for everyone by default though. What they've done instead is add a new set of optional gameplay modifiers that you can toggle on or off. That part is really important. Nothing here is forced on you. If you want the original experience exactly as it was, you can keep playing that way without touching any of the new options. Once you open up the new settings though, that's where things get interesting. One of the biggest changes is how forgiving the game can now be if you want it to be. You can enable settings that keep your party's HP and MP constantly topped off, which means you're no longer worrying about resource management during long chapters or boss fights. That alone makes the game far more relaxed, especially for players who are replaying the story and mainly want to enjoy the narrative and character moments without constant combat pressure. Combat itself can also be dramatically altered. There's an option that boosts damage output to the maximum cap, letting every hit land for huge numbers. Enemies that once took careful planning, stagger management, and multiple phases can now be cleared much faster. For some players, this is going to feel like a power fantasy, while for others, it's simply a way to move through sections they've already mastered without slowing the pace down. Items and progression have also been streamlined. With certain options enabled, you'll always carry items at their maximum stack limits, removing the need to constantly restock or worry about running out of healing during tough stretches. On top of that, experience points and AP gains can be increased, letting characters and materia level up much faster than before. This is especially useful for players trying to experiment with different builds or finish off late game upgrades without grinding the same encounters over and over again. Another noticeable change is how forgiving the battle systems can become. ATB gauges can fill more quickly, and limit breaks can become far easier to access, which completely shifts the rhythm of fights. Instead of carefully waiting for the right moment, you're able to use abilities and special attacks far more often. It makes combat feel faster, looser, and much less punishing if you're still learning how everything works or if you just want to focus on spectacle rather than precision. Beyond the gameplay changes, the update also includes general polish. There are stability improvements and bug fixes working quietly in the background. These aren't the kinds of changes that scream for attention, but they matter. Fewer crashes, smoother transitions, and small fixes to things that may have annoyed players over time all add up to a more consistent experience. It's the kind of maintenance work that shows the developers are still paying attention, even years after release. What's especially worth noting is the timing and intent behind this update. With Final Fantasy VII Remake reaching more platforms and a broader audience, these options feel like a welcome gesture rather than a shortcut. New players who might be intimidated by the comm depth now have a way in, while longtime fans can replay the game at their own pace without friction. It respects both groups instead of choosing one over the other. At the same time, none of this undermines the original design. If you loved managing materia, mastering stagger mechanics, and carefully planning boss fights, that experience is still there. The update doesn't replace anything, it simply adds layers of choice. And honestly, that's probably the smartest way to handle a game like this, especially one so closely tied to nostalgia and emotional storytelling. In the end, this update feels like a quality-of-life focused evolution rather than a reinvention. It smooths out rough edges, opens doors for new players, and gives returning fans more control over how they play. Whether you want to relive the story at a relaxed pace or experiment with mechanics in ways that weren't possible before, this patch quietly expands what Final Fantasy VII Remake can be without losing what made it special in the first place.